Hello and welcome back to StillPoint Logic. Thank you for following me to episode number 2. Last week, we began noticing the beliefs we hold in between our thoughts. Today, we're going deeper. We're exploring the stories we tell ourselves, the stories our minds repeat, and how they shape our emotions and reality. Think of it like this. Every belief is a tiny lens. Some make the world sharper, clearer, and more hopeful. Others may distort reality, darkening what we see. And just like a lens, often we don't notice it until we change it. And here's a little story as an example. Imagine this. It's Monday morning, and Emma wakes up a little late. She rushes and manages to get ready. But as she's rushing out the door, she spills coffee on her shirt. What do you think her first thought was? Probably something like this. I'm always messing things up. Notice what might happen next. Her shoulders tighten, jaw clenches, her stomach twists. Her whole day feels heavier before it even begins. Now, I know you probably felt something similar because I've been through this many times. That thought, the lens, the single belief, I'm always messing things up, has shaped her emotional reality. That feeling of failure, I don't think it's because of the coffee or even being late. It's just the story she tells herself about herself. And obviously, being late on a Monday morning and spilling coffee is very annoying. No one will be able to think positive thoughts when something like that happens. But it doesn't have to be so extreme to think that just because of those two things that happened, you're always messing up. Now let's try to flip it. Imagine if her first thought was, okay, this is super annoying, but I can handle it. Same coffee spill, same lateness, same rough morning, but the emotional experience is completely different, a little lighter and flexible. So instead of piling up all the things she thinks she's messing up, the door is still open to handle things. And this is exactly why beliefs matter. They are the engine behind our feelings, the invisible force shaping how we experience every moment, ourselves and others. Sometimes they work for us, they lift us up, give us courage, like her thought about being able to handle it, and they help us see the possibilities in life. Other times, they work against us, like a hidden current tugging at our mood or making our perception very bleak without even us noticing it. A single belief can transform an ordinary day. It can make a compliment feel warm or sting like criticism. It can make a challenge feel exciting or terrifying. And because most beliefs are beneath our awareness, they often control and dictate how we react before we even realize what's happening. The good news? Once we notice these beliefs, we can start to question them. We can learn to trace how they shape our emotions, see where they serve us, and where they might be holding us back. It's not about eliminating beliefs, it's about understanding them so they stop running the show unconsciously and start working consciously for us. But why do we tell ourselves these lies? I think our minds are pattern-seeking machines, which means they want to keep us safe. They want things to be predictable and efficient. But safety sometimes comes at a cost of the truth. Take the belief, I'm not good enough, as an example. The story might have started as a parent critique or maybe a teacher's comment, and sometimes it doesn't even come from someone close to us. It could be something we overheard, a throwaway remark that landed deeper than it should have. Other times, these stories come from what we see. Maybe we watched a movie where the character who always failed looked a little too much like us, and we unconsciously adopted their script as our own. Or we grew up seeing siblings, friends, or colleagues praised for qualities we didn't think we had. Over time, those comparisons hardened into actual beliefs. Then there are the cultural whispers, I'm going to call them like that, even though they aren't whispers at all. And I mean social media feeds, advertising slogans, messages that tell us what we should be, do, or have. Even if we never signed up for them, they still echo everywhere we go and all the time. And this is exactly how lies take root. Not always as big, dramatic moments, but as small impressions that get repeated until they feel like fact. And the tricky part, we don't even notice it most of the time. It becomes background noise. It's like a narrator in our head we never question. Can you think of a phrase, a moment, or even a scene from a movie that stuck with you so deeply it became part of your inner story, even if you never consciously chose it? Let's look at a few real life scenarios, and I hope you can resonate with one of them so you can understand my point a little bit better. The first example is about Alex and the presentation. Alex works in marketing, they do endless presentations all the time. But Alex believes that he must always perform perfectly in front of his team. When he makes a small mistake in a presentation, it makes him spiral into self criticism, feeling embarrassed and ashamed. But when he notices the belief, I must be perfect, and questions it, it opens up the situation and it reduces the emotional impact because obviously not every presentation is going to be delivered in a perfect way. The second example is about Maya and her friends, and I think it's also applicable to family members. Maya thinks, my friends should know what I need without me saying it. When they don't, she feels hurt and frustrated. Noticing the belief they should know allows her to pause and understand that her expectation of people reading her mind is not something that actually happens in reality. And instead of that, she understands she needs to communicate her needs. And that will help her avoid unnecessary resentment. The last example is about Jordan and self criticism. Jordan often repeats, I always fail at relationships. This belief shapes not only his feelings, but also how he interacts with others. Because before he even started talking to someone, he already thinks he's going to fail at it. But by noticing the thought, he begins to separate the story that his mind is telling him from the fact. And that simple shift gradually reduces stress and opens space for connections. Through these mini stories, I'm hoping we can all see the pattern. And it is a belief, which is the lens that we were talking about earlier. It shapes an emotion, and the emotion shapes the experience. Sometimes the experience didn't even happen, but we already shaped it in our minds. We're getting closer to the end of this episode, and there was one thing I wanted you to take from this episode and try to do on yourself. And if you're not into it, that's okay, but maybe my voice will pop up in your head and remind you to pause for a second. So this week, I want you to try noticing one belief that comes up repeatedly, something that shapes how you feel. And sometimes you can't pinpoint the feeling, but you can feel it in your body. So I want you to think about a lens that you have that's making you feel very strong emotion. You can use the help of the reflection sheet on the StillPoint Logic website to guide you through it. It's free. I'm not going to add you to any email list or send you more emails. Write down the belief, note the emotion it generates, and if you want to take the next step, try and question it. But for now, if you can just observe it, that's our goal. Think of it like holding up a mirror to your mind. You might notice cracks, or you might see patterns you weren't aware of, and that's okay. Let me leave you with a little story. I was trying to figure out how to make this episode a little less heavier, so let's give it a shot. Once upon a time, there was someone who believed I shouldn't ask for help. Every time she thought it, her shoulders tensed and she pulled back a little from others. Then one day, she wrote the thought down. Just that. She wrote down, I shouldn't ask for help. No fixing, no pressure. And in doing so, she noticed the story for what it was. Just a story. Slowly, she began to wonder, what if I did say yes for someone that offered help? What if I said yes just once? And when she did, the world didn't collapse. In fact, things felt a little easier and a little lighter. The moral of the story? You don't have to slay a dragon to change your life. Sometimes noticing the story is enough to open a new door. That's it. We're at the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. And before we part, I want to remind you I am not a therapist, I'm a consultant, or you might think of me as a reflection companion. This is not professional therapy. On our next episode, we'll go further, exploring what happens when we challenge these beliefs and start creating space for alternatives. That's where a real shift begins to unfold. Until then, I invite you to notice how your feelings rise and fall, and ask yourself what belief might be steering this emotion. And remember, clarity doesn't happen all at once. It comes in layers, little by little. So in the meantime, tell yourself the good story. I want to thank you for listening. The reflections in this podcast are inspired by logic-based therapy, a philosophical counseling model developed by Dr. Elliot D. Cohen. I'm a certified logic-based therapy consultant, and what I share here is my own perspective on its principles. This podcast is meant for reflection and learning and isn't a substitute for professional mental health. Take care, and I'll see you next time at your StillPoint.